Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Trust that you are ready to hear what the story is all about. In essence, as South Africa, we are hosting Amani Africa 2 on behalf of SADC, and the actual owners of the exercise is the African Union. Amani Africa 2 is a field training exercise, and it's going to take place from the 19th of October to the 7th of November this year. The aim of the exercise is twofold. One, to evaluate the state of readiness of the African standby force, and to exercise the rapid deployment capability in order to ascertain gaps and requirements for achieving full operational capability of the African standby force. And this is supposed to be achieved in terms of the AU goals and objective by December 2015. The exercise itself is going to be conducted by 5 regional economic communities as structured by the African Union. It's the Northern Region, East African Community, Economic Community of Central African States, ECOWAS, which is the Economic Community of West Africa States, and Southern African Development Community, which is SADC. The original planning was that this exercise was supposed to have taken place 2014, and it was supposed to have taken place in Lesotho. But due to challenges in the Kingdom of Lesotho, then the AU approached SADC, and then within SADC, there were discussions, and it was finally agreed that South Africa would host the exercise. That led then to planning, which started early this year, and as South Africa, we decided that the exercise will take place in the Northern Cape at the Combat Training Center. Well, the question is, Amani Africa 2, what is Amani? Amani is Kiswahili word, which means peace, so peace in Africa. That's the essence of the word itself. Now, this exercise is based on a fictitious country, so we create a fictitious country, and that concept, we call it a Karana concept. And the exercise, in terms of the UN, you would then know, ladies and gentlemen, that there are 2 chapters in the UN. Chapter 6, in terms of peace support operation, and Chapter 7. So the AU's approach, therefore, in terms of Chapter 7, we call it Scenario 6, which is more of an intervention approach. And then when it's more of a peacekeeping, then we call it Chapter 6, which then in terms of the scenarios, we call it Scenario 5. So that is then the approach which is going to be followed in this situation. Then the first scenario, therefore, is going to test the rapid deployment capability, which means a very short notice, very short time. The level of conflict is very high in terms of intensity, and therefore you want a force which at least has got firepower and maneuverability. It moves in quick and deal with the level of violence and quell it and bring it down to a more manageable level of violence in terms of the conflict and the intensity of that will be the first part. Then once that is done, then we will move to a lower level in terms of Scenario 5, which is more of peacekeeping. So that is, in essence, the approach of the exercise. Now, the number of forces, we're talking about 5,400 military, police, and civilian components. It's a more of a multi-dimensional mission. And the troop contributing countries in terms of the higher level, you would have your Angola, Botswana, DRC, Lesotho, Malawi, Mozambique, Namibia, South Africa, Swaziland, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. We're talking more in terms of the bigger number of troops. Then the other regions, because of the distance and time, will contributing and participating in this exercise. We are talking of more of Algeria, Burundi, Egypt, Ethiopia, Gambia, Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, Rwanda, and Uganda. In terms of the time frames, from the 12, we're looking at the first advanced team arriving, and then they'll be moving to the combat training center, and they'll be introduced, and then they'll be at least sitting together there and preparing to receive the forces. And they'll be coming through different ports of entry, some the land ones, some the air ones. Now, from the 19th until 19th of October, until the 7th of November, roughly that's the period where the forces will be sitting somewhere in Luatla doing what is expected of them. Now, the different levels of this exercise, we're speaking at in terms of levels of war. We're speaking at strategic level. That means the head office strategic level will be in Ethiopia, Addis. And then the relevant countries have contributed members who then, having this task authorized by the AU, and then the headquarters will monitor it, and then they'll be sitting at the AU level. Down here, where the mission is, there'll be a mission headquarters. That's where then the special representative of the AU would be sitting in terms of the political side and the civilian side. And then the commissioner of the police will be then taking charge of the different police units, whether it's individuals or formed units, will also be sitting in this mission headquarters. And the first commander will be sitting there with his force headquarters. That's what we call, therefore, a mission headquarters, which is more at an operational level of war. Then the various units, means battalions and air assets, then they will be also on the ground, but then they'll be operating at tactical level. So these are the different levels where this will be taking place. And the planning itself, as one has indicated, it initially supposed to have taken place in December. So the Lesotho Defense Force was more running that, assisted by the SADC planning element in Gaborone, but unfortunately, they needed to switch over to South Africa. And we took over that from the February early this year, and we've been running the process of planning. If we talk of, as I indicated, that the people will be coming through, now we're looking at the number of ports of entry coming to South Africa. You're looking at the Uppington. If those who are going to be flying will be flying to Uppington. Those will be driving, then we'll be driving through different number of border posts. There is Nakop, a border post, which takes us between South Africa and Namibia. Ramatlabane, between South Africa and Botswana. Bay Bridge, Zimbabwe, South Africa. Lebombo, South Africa, Mozambique. Oshoek, Swaziland, South Africa. Maseru Bridge, Lesotho, South Africa. Now the arrangement, we are working with the joint elements in terms of the police, home affairs, customs, and the military is there. As they come in with the number of assets which they might have at their disposal, then we need to know what is it that they're coming in with, and also the people who are coming in. And they will be received, escorted all the way to Kimberley, Uppington, then finally Luatla. Now the actual escort, it will be military police, it will be South African Police Service and some of the metropolis in the various towns and cities they will be driving through. Now the cities and towns which will be affected are as follows: Uppington, Olifantshoek, Kuruman, Katu, Kimberley, Berkeley West, Postmansberg. That's your Northern Cape. Northwest, Mahikeng, Stella, Vryburg, Rustenburg, Costa, Lichtenberg, Basisvlei, Stanislav, Deleville, Potchefstroom, Ventersdorp, Coleni. Limpopo would be speaking to Messina, Makado, Polokwane. Gauteng, it will be Pretoria, Brakpan. Mpumalanga, Komatipoort, Malelan, Nelspruit, Gondwana, Machadodorp, Belfast, Middelburg, Emalahleni, Bongaspruit, Lord Hill, Christmere, Ermelo, Benthal, Trichard, Leandra. Free State, Ladybrand, Tamantru, Botshabelo, Bloemfontein, Petrasbeck. Well, for us, the reason why we felt that through your good selves, the members of the media and the various media houses, that we must share this information is just to warn all South Africans that this exercise is going to take place in South Africa. If they see these different type of militaries driving through their various towns and cities, there is nobody trying to take over South Africa. South Africa is in good hands. So please be aware. We are doing this. It's an exercise. We are not in any way will be attacked by anybody. It's just one of those things. So it is critical that at least people are aware. And we are appealing to the members of the public that also they must support this endeavor, because it speaks to peace, and peace speaks to stability, and stability speaks to economic development. And therefore, we are pursuing the issues of peace and stability in Africa. And South Africa is playing its vital role in terms of the continent. Well, although this flag was supposed to be flown on behalf of SADC by Lesotho, it has now fallen in our hands. And as South Africa, we are proud to be flying the flag and to be hosting the exercise Amani Africa. As I indicated in terms of the breakdown, in terms of the time frames, various number of forces will be airlifted from the 12th on the 16th, land in the area in terms of the vehicles and equipment from the 12th to the 16th of October. That will be the airlift. 17 to 18, final preparation of the exercise by those who are involved. And for the opening ceremony, you are invited, and it's going to take place on the 19th of October and at CTC. 20 to 25, it will be induction training, just to reorientate the members in terms of the training field itself, and in terms of their own positions, and also what is expected of them, and confirming that at least we're speaking the same language, because we're coming from various number of countries, and of course, we speak kind of different languages. English will be there, of course, French will be there, and Portuguese will be there. So that is the 20 to 25. 26 to 29, we're speaking to scenario 6. That is that intervention, rapid deployment capability will be tested. 30 to 31, then we'll be going for mission training from scenario 6 to scenario 5. That means you change the mindset of the soldiers, and at least you look at the equipment which is meant for scenario 5. And that's then will be done on that period of the 30 to 31. I mean, wrong. The actual preparation and changing of the mind and the attitude will be 30 to 31. But the actual scenario 5, it will be 1st to 4 November. Then, if you miss that period and you are not there, you are invited for the 5th of November. That will be a VIP day, and media is allowed, and it will be the 5th of November. And finally, 6 and 9 will be dealing with demobilization. 7 and 15, people will be going back to their own countries, including their vehicles and their equipment. In the light of that, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you as the South African National Defense. If there are any questions, we are ready at least to respond. Thank you.
General, sir, we will now allow time for questions. We'll take questions from this side in Pretoria and then take questions from down in Cape Town. Sir, and then ma'am.
My name is Alexander Ninchev. I'm from the Russian News Agency TASS. That idea of the African Standby Force has been in the pipeline for over 10 years and even more. But it got accelerated after the events in Libya, where NATO interfered. Does it mean that when the African Standby Force appears and is operational, there will be no more interference from outside the continent in African affairs, and the African Standby Force will deal with all the conflicts? Thank you.
How do you want to end it?
We'll take 3 questions and then, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Valeska from the Citizen newspaper. I might have missed it, but I just want to know how many troops are we expecting? And also these troops that are coming, do they have combat training? Have they been in combat situations before? Or will this be their first time in the training? And yeah, will this be their first time?
Gentleman just behind.
All right, Sipho Stelman from SABC. My question is actually quite similar to that of my colleague. I just want to know just if you have an estimate of, the number of how big this operation is going to be, the foot soldiers, how many are we expecting, and what sort of equipment are they going to be bringing with them? If you can just give us specifically that. And also, maybe I've missed this, but then is there a set mission that they're going to be attending to after the training, after this? Is there a mission that's on the agenda straight away? Thank you.
We'll take those 3 questions, then General, sir.
Thank you. Yes, it is true that the issue of Libya has also at least given us some lessons in terms of what's happening. But after Libya, one of the most critical one was Mali. And according to the arrangement, ECOWAS was expected to respond. It took them a little bit longer to respond, to such an extent that somebody else from France had to call the shot and quickly come in, which they did. Good thing, because we're part of the international community, there's nothing wrong with that. But also, you want, as Africa, to be able to deal with this and manage this. And therefore, we have been at least on the long road where coming together as various sub-regions, we have done that, develop and pledging the forces that was done by the different regions. And also evaluating the issue of doctrine and training together, that took some time. Develop, therefore, the doctrines based on the sub-regions, and then taking those different types of doctrine with different languages to the AU took us some time. And finally putting it together. And then all of us then confirming our level of readiness to the AU. So it had to take some time, and which it did, because our method of operation and doctrine is not the same. So we had then to agree, and that's not that easy. So it sounds easy. So yes, it is true, it took us a little bit longer. And this is why we haven't been tested. And the program of making sure that we are ready by 2015 under the AU, it has been there before Mali. But unfortunately, Mali came, Libya came, and then it became more urgent than it has been all along. And hence, then we had to make sure that we are able to confirm the level of readiness. So what is going to be evaluated in this particular exercise is the strategic headquarters, in terms of the AU, able to generate force levels, project force levels, and direct that mission, which is a multi-dimensional mission. So that's what's going to be evaluated. And then also the mission headquarters, setting up a mission headquarters so far away from Addis, and then able to communicate and send instruction and send reports in terms of your strategic communication and making sure that at least that can function is what is going to be tested. The actual troops on the ground, which is tactical, they are well trained, they know what they do, given the command, it's not really a problem. But for the AU, it's your operational headquarters in terms of the mission itself and your strategic headquarters and projecting that force. So that would be the response for the first question. The second question speaks to the strength of the force. We talk about 5,400. And combat experience, well, combat experience. Let me put it this way, they've been exposed, quite a number of them, in terms of the latest development in various AU and UN peace support operations. If you talk of South Africa, they've been there. They've seen, they've been tested. If you talk of Rwanda, they are in Central Africa, they are in, as we speak, as part of the UN mission. They are in Darfur, Sudan, as part of the UN. So if you talk of Burundi, they are also in Central African Republic, and they are also in Somalia. Uganda, they are in Somalia, and you will find them as we speak in southern Sudan. So yes, they've got among themselves quite a number of experience in terms of peace support operations, and those missions, some of them are very challenging. Now, in terms of main equipment, because of the challenges we have in terms of moving big equipment, if you're looking at a little bit of armor and a little bit of attack helicopters or combat helicopters, it's not going to be easy, and you'll be finding more of South African type, because you need to, if you must project them here, you need a strategic airlift. So at that stage, the AEU per se is not fully, at least, established in that environment. So you are looking more in terms of APCs, which is armored personnel carriers, and you are looking at small arms, and you are looking at anti-tank weapons, you are looking at mortars, and you are looking at that kind of type of armament. Mainly that kind of armament is going to be coming from the SADC forces. So trying to respond to the question of the armament. I'm not sure whether that speaks to question number 3. Thanks, sir.
Thank you. I don't have visibility of Cape Town. You said we're connected to, we're linked to Cape Town. How do we handle questions?
There are no questions in Cape Town, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
General, I don't think if everybody had time to list all the countries which are participating, which you mentioned, I hope will be given the text after the briefing, yes. But initially, there were reports that Western Africa is not participating, that ECOWAS is now dealing with the creation of its own force to fight Boko Haram, 10,000 force, something like that. But do they now change their mind, and are they participating in the African standby force, or they are still waiting for that? And if possible, China at the UN General Assembly pledged to give $100 million in the coming 5 years to the African standby force. Can you say how much of that will be spent for the exercise? How much would it cost? And who is financing? Only South Africa or all the participating countries? Thank you.
Thank you. In terms of the Central Africa, if one can put it that way, in terms of the economic community of South African state, they will be represented by Angola. So that's how we have arranged it, having taken into account what's happening in that area, where Chad, Central African Republic, Niger are involved. They will be, because they won't be able to contribute, but their contribution because Angola is part of that, again, in one way or other. So they've taken that they will contribute a force which will represent that region. Then in terms of ECOWAS, which is the northern part, they will be more having senior people sitting at the strategic level, not necessarily contributing troops. So this is why your troops will be coming more from East Africa and from SADC. That is first part. Unfortunately, I know that there's been contribution by quite a number of countries in terms of the fiscus for this particular exercise. And I also know that the member states have made their own contribution. And South Africa, we have at least done ours, and probably we have gone more than what was expected of us, which I think is good for South Africans to contribute. And in terms of the European Union, they've also contributed in terms of this. But the figures, unfortunately, I don't have, but I know that they've contributed. And for what's going to be taking place in South Africa, if you look at the footprint of South Africa, one, now we must cover all the border posts where these people are going to be coming and have people to escort. Now, if you count then the vehicles and the fuel and everything else which is involved in the food, and then that's going to be at least not invoiced back to the AU. South Africa is taking that price tag, so we'll pay for that. And two, if there's any challenges in terms of these countries, when it comes to recovery of their vehicles, if anything happens between wherever they are to Luanda, we'll have to recover those vehicles. We'll do it on our own, and again, not anybody's cost. And when you do an exercise, you must have an opposing force. So the AU is bringing a force, but then they must have the rebels or any other people who are against whatever. So we'll provide that as South Africa. Now, obviously, then to provide an opposing force, it must have a certain level in terms of strength and a certain equipment, and it must at least be there live. So that, again, we're not going to be paid for it as South Africa, so we'll contribute. But then in terms of the rand and cents, I won't be able, at least from where I'm seated, at least to put it down. But I think then if we approach as the time goes on, those figures can be made available. Thank you.
Any other follow-up question or any question coming down from Cape Town, if any? Or still no question from Cape Town?
None in Cape Town.
Okay.
Well, there was Amani 1. Amani 1 was more on this one is we call it an FXT, which is a force training exercise. Then there was, the right term now, the map exercise. There was a map exercise where you're looking at the concept, you're looking at the map, and then you discuss, and you look at the issues of strategic thinking and concept of operation, and you test then a little bit of your procedures. That was done in terms of the map exercise, which was Amani Africa 2. Was it in Tanzania?
One.
Amani Africa, was it in Tanzania? Yeah, I think it was in Tanzania some couple of years back. And then once we agreed about the concept of operation and how then we see things happening all the way from strategic level and then operational level and technical level, then it was said, okay, now let's go to the actual exercise itself, which is a force. Now we exercise the force. Thank you, and enjoy your day.
Ladies and gentlemen, both from here as well as in Cape Town, we want to thank you for your time and for your patience. We're looking forward to your support. Thank you.